Hi and welcome to the video. I'm Damon, this is Dame Over. Today we're in Apex Legends and I've put together a guide to be showing you guys all the loot locations in Kings Canyon so you know where to land every time to give you the upper hand over your competition. I'll be including all tiers of loot from low to high, so if you're new to Apex Legends or have been playing non-stop like I have since launch, there will definitely be something useful for you here. So if you find it useful, make sure you hit that like button, and if you're new around here, make sure you hit the subscribe button too so you don't miss any future content. So let's get straight to it and have a look at the overall map before I go into a bit more detail. So here it is. This image has been floating around on the internet for a little bit while now. I can't actually find the source, but just so you guys know, I didn't make it myself. And as you can see, each area is color coded so you can easily see what tier loot you can expect to find in each named area, and there are a few that haven't been named as well on the large map you see when you're dropping in, but I've named them as well to make things a little bit easier. I'll make sure you know what I'm talking about when I'm mentioning them. So feel free to screenshot this image so you can have it easily to hand, or do a Google search, or just pause the video if you're using it for reference. So there are pretty clear regions where you can find the higher tier loot, and these are fixed. The biggest cluster of higher tier loot is in the northwest portion of the map. Starting from the edge working in, there is the airbase and runoff. On the edge of the map to the east is the pit, and much closer to the center of the map is the bunker. This area is probably going to be the most prolific for high tier loot because there's so many areas, but you've also got mid tier loot available in slum lakes if you don't feel like contesting what will probably be a busy area and moving in afterwards. In between the airbase and bunker, there is a low tier loot area called High Desert, which is a half decent backup point to drop to if you don't get the drop quite right and another team is going to beat you there. The runoff and airbase are relatively open, with the spread of random loot on the ground as well as supply bins. The pit and bunker force you into much closer quarters though. The pit only has 3 ways in and out, all of them narrow corridors, so if you do choose to drop here, make sure you're either not joined by another team or you get there first, or you could find yourself with no way out if you need to back out of the fight. The same goes for the bunker. It has 2 areas, one each side, so to the east and the west, and a bunch of rooms inside too. You'll be confined to close quarters, so if your Legends abilities don't add to your close range capabilities, you might want to steer clear, or you can always just hope to land on a shotgun or an SMG. It's really close to the center of the map, so chances are it'll always be busy. For those of you that want to get a high kill count per game, then this will be one of the best places to start your game. Moving clockwise around the map to the northeast side, for high tier loot we've got artillery and relay, with mid tier loot at Cascades, Wetlands, and to the west of Wetlands we have the farm. These areas are a bit more spread apart, so won't generally see the same number of players at the start as other landing spots, but so far at artillery I've always had at least one other team land there. Artillery is great for loot, with lots of buildings, so there's lots of spawn points and some supply bins. It also has a hot air balloon nearby if you need to get away from the storm in a hurry, and I should say that if you have Lifeline in your squad, then dropping her ultimate in artillery and relay is very useful, as you only have to defend from a couple of directions. The same goes for any of the locations on the edge of the map, so once you know the area is clear, make sure you're using her ultimate as soon as possible. It's the same as the regular airdrop, but you only get equipment and won't get weapons. It's really useful to upgrade to that purple armor if you or your teammates are missing some. Relay is a bit more sparse for loot as there aren't as many buildings, but can be a good way to start if you plan on sweeping through wetlands on your way south to pick up any other equipment you might need. You'll have a bit more breathing space in this part of the map because of the spread of each location, so if you prefer longer range weapons and you get them, or are new and want to test out mechanics, learn controls, learn the map, etc., then this might be a good spot for you. Heading down the east side of the map, you'll find high tier loot in the swamps and repulsor. There is mid tier loot in the Hydro Dam, and there are 2 unnamed locations to the north and south of Hydro Dam. The one to the north is the Shattered Forest, and the landing pad is to the south, but you'll only find low tier equipment here. To the west of Hydro Dam, and the most central location on the map, is Bridges, which you can expect mid-tier loot from. Repulsor isn't too dissimilar from artillery. There are 5 or 6 large buildings and a mix of supply bins too. Swamps is one of the better locations for high tier loot because there are so many possible spawn locations, although it is a little tricky to get around. Make sure you're using the zip lines where you can to get from building to building, but this is one of the more successful locations I've found to get good gear. If we head to the central southern part of the map, we've got water treatment as your go-to location for high tier loot. There are only a few buildings and supply bins here, but there should be enough to gear up your squad. It is in the center of the map, so you have to be aware of enemies coming in from 2 sides, but it puts you in a good position to move to the new zone wherever that might appear. If you head to the north, we've got Crossroads, which is a mid-tier loot location, and to the west of that, there is Market and East Settlement, which only have low-tier equipment. Because of how this loot is spread out, you'll probably want to stick to either the east or west side of the map to help you continue to loot high-tier equipment when you move on. Which brings us to the southwest corner of the map, and it's the Thunderdome that holds the high-tier loot for you. It's surrounded by mid-tier loot locations, so going clockwise, we've got West Settlement, Skull Town, and South Settlement. There's a fair bit of open desert in this corner of the map, so as long as you land first, you should be okay. And running away is difficult because there's a fair amount of open spaces and differences of height in the terrain, so you can get picked off relatively easily if you do have to bail. There is a lot of loot in this corner of the map because of the sheer amount of buildings and possible locations, so don't be surprised if more than one team heads to the southwest corner of the map at one time. And make sure you've got your flanking brain on when you do get into a firefight in those close quarters. There are also a couple of locations that it's a bit tricky to label on the map that you should take note of. The tower in Cascades, it's the highest point that overlooks the whole area, called Watchtower North, always has high tier loot, and similarly down at the south we've got Watchtower South, so that is just south of the Crossroads that I mentioned earlier. I have noticed a couple of other locations within a location, if you get what I mean, that also have high tier loot, so keep your eyes out for those as well. If you do know where these places are exactly, it'd be great if you could jump in the comments and let me and anyone else that sees this video know. Always useful to get some more information about it. And like I said before, these areas are fixed at the moment. This may change in the future depending on what Respawn Entertainment add to the game, and you may have noticed that I haven't mentioned the hot zone and loot drones, which will both get you high tier loot. These are different in every single game, so make sure you're checking the map as you drop in for the hot zone, and you're listening out for the audio cues to let you know that a loot drone is nearby. There's also the supply ship to keep an eye on as you're dropping in. This also can have very high tier loot, although it's a bit of a mixed bag. There aren't so many locations on it, and generally it's quite heavily contested as it's quite a fun place to land. So keep that in mind when you're deciding where to go. So that is a breakdown of all of the loot locations in Kings Canyon. The high tier stuff is mainly around the edge of the map. I suppose this is to encourage players to head out to the edge and work their way in, so there's not a really busy kill zone somewhere in the center like Fortnite did with Tilted Towers, and it looks like it's working relatively well so far. And now you know where to take your squad no matter what the flight of the dropship is, so you can get head start early in the game with that powerful armor and those all important attachments. Here's a quick thank you to my Dame Operatives, those of you guys supporting the channel through Patreon. You guys are amazing, and it's because of you guys that I can make content as often as I do. Hopefully in the near future I'll be able to start doing this full time if I get a bit more support, so if you want to become a patron yourself, there'll be a link in the description and the pinned comment, and you can help support the channel from as little as $1 a month if you'd like to. So if you had a good time, make sure you've hit that like button. If you're new around here, hit the subscribe button too. Don't forget the bell button for notifications so you don't miss any future posts. And as always, share this video wherever you like. And until next time, that's Dame over. Peace.